My dear friends, the final trailer for the Ahsoka show has finally dropped, the big one, the one we've all been waiting for. This one looks amazing, the visuals are spectacular, right on par with that of Star Wars Andor. I think this might be one of the best Disney Plus TV shows in terms of visual effects. There is so much to break down. Now before I get into it, I just want to say this. My first reaction, I was amazed, almost in tears. I'm a huge Star Wars Rebels fan, I've made that no secret here on the channel. I've talked about the show over and over again. I was in university when Star Wars Rebels came out, and there were a lot of Star Wars fans at the time who were just not interested in this show. I loved it since season 1, I thought it was great. It was really an escape for me, and so seeing how far these characters have come, and now today, a beautiful day for Star Wars Rebels fans, I'm over the moon that we're a month and a bit away from the next chapter of Sabine's story, Hera's story, Chopper, Ahsoka, so many others as well. So let's break down some specifics, and as the title of this video suggests, I want to break down some misconceptions and also some things a lot of fans are missing. So first things first, Ray Stevenson, rest in peace. Baylan seems like a phenomenal character. I think he's going to be one of my favourite villains of the Disney Star Wars era. He starts by taking out some New Republic officers with his apprentice Shin, and he says, "We are no Jedi," a play on Ahsoka's phrase, "I am no Jedi." Now Baylan says, war is inevitable. In order to create, one must destroy. I think he's talking metaphorically about the Jedi, because they forge this new path, one that is not just light, but somewhere in the middle, a dark Jedi. And when he says war is inevitable, it seems like all of the bad guys of this show, Morgan Elsbeth, Baylan, Shin, they're all working together and they seem very aware that there is going to be a war that's going to break out. The New Republic doesn't see it coming just yet. Hera seemingly is trying to warn Mon Mothma, but our bad guys know. They know the situation with the Remnant, but I think despite having a long relationship with Thrawn and working for him, they don't know where he is. So after he was launched into hyperspace by the Purgle with Ezra in season 4 of Star Wars Rebels, they seem to have lost track with him. They don't know where he's gone. And to this end, I don't think we're going to see much of Thrawn in the show. I think he's only going to make himself known at the end. We do see our first glimpse of him in this trailer. He looks awesome. I did make the joke on Twitter that he kind of looks like Elon Musk, but this is Lars Mikkelsen, the voice of Thrawn in Star Wars Rebels, and now he's back. Now on the subject of Baylan, Shin and Morgan Elsbeth, Shin asks her master Baylan, "What happens when we find Thrawn?" And Baylan responds, "Power, such as you've never dreamed." Now given the connections between Morgan Elsbeth, who's been building a fleet on Caladan on Corvus, I think they're aware of Thrawn's connections to the Night Sisters, a new type of Night Sister, which Making Star Wars leaks a few months ago told us was going to be in this show. Thrawn has built a Force-sensitive army, and Baylan wants a piece of that. He wants to garner that power for himself. And I think Morgan Elsbeth has this Night Sister power from the New Beyond. When she generates this kind of force field, this kind of map, is this a force portal to where Thrawn is? Some fans think this is to do with the world between worlds, but it's not. The closest we have to any indication of that is with this engraving on the wall that looks like the daughter. So a big part of the subplot of this show is going to be the bad guys searching for Thrawn. Just as we saw in the Mandalorian season 3 with the Imperial Remnant Shadow Council, they didn't know where he was. Thrawn is deliberately masking and obfuscating his whereabouts, but I reckon we'll find out by the end. But this sets up a very interesting subplot, and the scene where they generate a secret map takes place in the mystical forest with the pink flora, the one I've been speaking about in recent videos. I think just like Dagobah, there is something to do with force energy inherent to this planet. Look at the Stonehenge type of ritual site. It reminds me of the Seeing Stone on Tython, but it's not. There is some kind of dark magic power that the Night Sisters from the New Beyond have, ones which are more powerful than those on Dathomir, and Morgan Elsbeth has a connection to these. So let's go to some of our heroes. We see Sabine Wren on Lothal. She's been listening to the hologram left by Ezra Bridger. After he separated from Thrawn in hyperspace, he too went into hiding. The leaks say this is because the assassins were after him, and in this time, he left his lightsaber with Sabine and he asked her to bring him home. Also, he's been using a martial arts form. As I predicted in my previous video, there is some time that has passed in Star Wars Rebels, and in the first episode, we see Sabine cut her hair, and the parallel between Kanan cutting his hair before Jedi Knight, where he sacrificed himself in Star Wars Rebels, was made very apparent. Now, is Sabine a Jedi? This seems to be a central question, because in this very trailer, she calls Ahsoka Master, and she uses her lightsaber against Shin on more than one occasion. She's clearly trying to use the Force. Or is just learning how to train like a Jedi. Because Dave Filoni did say in a previous interview that Sabine is no Jedi, and Ahsoka seems willing to train her, but not someone like Grogu. My interpretation is that Ahsoka is a new master to Sabine, but not in the sense of being a Force sensitive. Just as Kanan trained her with the Darksaber, maybe Ahsoka is preparing Sabine for combat against enemies, which seems to be racking up more and more. Ahsoka then says, Anakin never got to finish my training. I walked away from him the same way I walked away from Sabine. What does she mean by this? Does she feel as though she has a duty to train Sabine maybe because of a new discovery? Maybe Sabine is Force sensitive, but I don't think that's the path they're going down. But this dynamic is going to be fascinating. We see Ahsoka in her New Republic gear, and speaking of the New Republic, Hera warns Mon Mothma and the government about another war. Hera spent much of her life fighting the Empire and she doesn't want to do the same again for the Remnant. We know this ends badly though, because Mon Mothma was too stubborn to militarize. I've broken this down before, but the New Republic does not have a good fate. Just look at the sequel trilogy. The setup to The Force Awakens is gonna start in Ahsoka and build up through the Mandoverse from here on out. We see a cool shot of her Yang. Hera says, once a rebel, always a rebel. That really spoke to me as a Star Wars Rebels fan. Now another massive moment is when Baylan confronts Ahsoka and he tells her, Anakin spoke highly of you. So he knew Anakin during the Clone Wars. Baylan is a former Jedi, a survivor of Order 66. So who was he during the Clone Wars? Are we going to learn more about his backstory? I'm dying to know how this conversation goes down and what happens during their fight. At the end of the trailer, Ahsoka fights an HK-87, but also the Inquisitor many fans think is the 8th brother. Now given his spinning lightsaber, I'm starting to think he survived Star Wars Rebels, and this really is him. He looks so intimidating, so many of the visuals are awesome, and the lightsabers, the way they move, the subtleties with the visuals are impeccably done. And I absolutely love this shot on Lothal of Sabine on the speeder. This is a direct callback to very similar scenes from the early scenes of Star Wars Rebels, and I love the design of this new astromech. He's so adorable, look at him. He's got one massive eye on the front. I really want a Funko Pop of this. Anyway, there's a lot of tension and there's a lot of interesting stuff going on both sides because it seems like it's all building to Thrawn's appearance. I get the impression when it comes to Ezra and Thrawn, we're not going to see too much of them in the bulk of this show. The bulk of it is going to come at the end, I think in the final episode, and I'm really hoping that this is more than one season long. This honestly blew my mind, guys, and not just because I'm such a fan of Star Wars Rebels. As its own TV show, it looks amazing. The visuals, as I say, are just as good as Star Wars Andor, and that's saying a lot because I adore that show. We also get a close-up look at a Purgle. This is mind-blowing. When Rosario Dawson talked about the scope of the show, she was not kidding. Look at this thing. I get Pirates of the Caribbean vibe, but also complete faith the CGI is going to be unlike anything we've seen before. It looks so cinematic. We're going to see some new planets, new confrontations, and you know what? I can't believe I'm saying this, but I don't even care if we don't get many cameos. These characters, some of the new ones, and the ones from Star Wars Rebels, are really awesome in and of themselves. So when it comes to characters like Barra Sophie and others fans theorize are going to be in the show, I just don't think we need them. But what do you guys think? What are your first impressions of this trailer? Share your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. May the Force be with you, always.